So like I mentioned before, this is Microsoft Word Intermediate, and we are glad to have you here today. My name is Janelle Mercer, and I have been here to help with questions and also if anybody has any technical issues as we go along as well. And if you have questions as we go, please feel free to use the chat to ask those. We like to ask questions as we go along just because this makes it a little bit more interactive since we're on Zoom. If it's something we might be covering a lot of times, I'll say that that's something we'll be going over, but I'll make sure to cover that. But we are so glad to get all your questions, so please ask those as we go. We'd also like to give special thanks to GCF Learn Free and the Denver Public Library. GCF Learn Free gave us some ideas for some of what we're going to be talking about today. And the Denver Public Library also created the lesson plan and the document that we're going to be using today. They created that and shared it with libraries and other people so that they can use that as well. So we appreciate that. And also I appreciate Ben's help too, because he created a lot of the screenshots that we'll be using. So thank you. So to start out, we're going to do a little bit of an overview of Word. We talked about this last time, but we're going to go over it again for those of you that may not have been here and just as a refresher. So when you open up Word, this is what you see. This first part up here where you have paste, copy, and normal and all this, that is called the ribbon inside of Word. And then you will also see there's different groups. So we're inside the Home tab, and inside the Home tab, we have different groups such as the Clipboard right here that has paste, copy, and we'll go over more of this. Then you also have the Font group, which is where you can change what your font looks like. And then you can change the size of your font, the color, and that type of thing. And basically the font has to do with the writing or the typing inside of your document. So it's very similar to handwriting. So just like people use different colors of ink to write, you can also use different colors of ink in your documents as well. And you can also change the size and the type of font too, and we'll talk more about that. You also have the paragraph section and then styles. And we're going to be focusing quite a bit on styles today. We'll talk a little bit more about what that is and how you can find out more information. But basically, styles have to do with styling your document and what the document looks like, such as colors, certain color groups, certain font styles. I keep using styles to describe styles, but it has to do with what your document looks like. So the colors, the fonts, different types of headings, different titles, that types of thing, or that type of thing. You also have an editing section. Up here at the top, we also have our quick access bar, which has the undo button right here. And then the redo button. The undo button is probably my best friend, and I'm sure a lot of you have used that too. You can use the undo button whenever you make a mistake, or if you maybe don't like the way something looks, you can always undo it. So that's one of my favorite tools inside of Microsoft products, and especially inside of Word. So I use that quite a bit. You have several other things in here as well, like the redo. So if you undo and then you decide you want to keep what you did, you can undo, or you can redo your undo, I guess you would say. Then you also have, you can go to open here and then start a new document as well. And then over here, you'll see the title bar. So whenever you start a document, when you first start out, Word will automatically name it document 1. If you have multiple new documents opened and you haven't saved them or renamed them, if you haven't renamed them to something else, it'll like be document 2, document 3, and so on. So once you save this and do a save as and save it as something else, the title will change up here. There's also the help, so you can get to help easily right here. If you have a question, like if you want to know how to insert bullets, that type of thing, you can find that fairly easily. This right here, this little looks like a minus sign, that's the minimize. So when you tap on minimize, and I'm going to go ahead and open Word just so you can see what this looks like. So again, when you get into Word, a lot of times if you just want to start a blank document, you just tap on blank document. And over here, this is the minimize button. So when you tap on minimize, it actually minimizes it down to your toolbar down here. And then when you want to open it back up again, you just tap on it with your mouse. This is the restore down button. So if you tap on this, it'll restore your document down to a smaller size. And you can also resize this yourself with your mouse down here at the bottom or over on the side. We'll go ahead and then when you can also, the button will change so you can maximize it after you restore it down. So this is restore down, and then you have maximize to maximize it back to its normal size. You also have the close button here. So if you click on this, it'll close your document. I'll go ahead and do that just so you can see. So you'll see it closed it. We can open it back up again and then start a blank document. So those are some of the main buttons you see when you're inside Word when you first get started. There's also other tabs on here as well. We have Home, Insert, Design, and we'll go over some of these a little bit more. I also want to emphasize that you don't have to know what all of these mean. A lot of times we will use the same buttons over and over again. Like you might spend a lot of time customizing your fonts and changing your font color and size. And that's okay if you don't use a lot of the other buttons. You can also, you'll notice that as you scroll your mouse over them, it'll tell you more about what each button does. So that's an easy way. You definitely don't have to know what they all do, especially if you don't use them. And you can always scroll your mouse over them so that you get a better idea of what they do. And just as a refresher, when you're starting out, we recommend that let me write something really quick. That you use your mouse to highlight what you'd like to change and use the toolbar up here to change it. So let's say we want to format this text. We're going to change the font size. I'm going to go ahead and select it with my mouse. And the best way to do that is to either start at the beginning of the line and push down your mouse with the left mouse button and move to the right, or start at the end, press your mouse button and move to the left. So it kind of is just a matter of preference, whatever works better for you. And we're going to go ahead and change the font on this to Arial Black, and then we're just going to make it larger to size 24, and we'll also change the color. So I did Arial Black here. Pick that in the font, and then we change the size. We'll change the size again to 18. Maybe that was a little big for what we wanted. And then the font colors right here, you'll notice if you scroll your mouse over it, it says font color. And if you click on this, it'll automatically change it to red, but you also have a drop down here where you can pick colors. So let's say that we want green instead. So that's a quick overview of some of those. I'm going to go ahead and close this and go back to the PowerPoint, but when we close, I just want to show you something really quick. So when you close something and you already have text in here, it will prompt you whether you want to save it or not. In this case, I don't want to save it, but you could go ahead and click on save if you were working on a document you wanted to save. So I'm going to click on don't save in this instance, and we're going to go ahead and go back to the PowerPoint. Also down at the bottom, you'll notice that you have zoom, and you can zoom in and out. Most of the time it opens up at 100%, and that's usually where I keep it. Sometimes when we're teaching a class, we'll zoom in a little bit so you can see the text better. You'll also notice right here that you have a cursor, and a lot of times this may be blinking inside of your document. Wherever your cursor is when you start typing, that's where your text will show up. And over here on the left, you have a ruler, and also up at the top. So that kind of gives you an idea of where you are inside of your document. So just like with anything, there's a lot of different ways to do things. In Word, there's basically 3 different ways that you can apply formatting or make changes to your documents. The first is using the toolbar, like we just showed. You can also right click with your mouse. So that would be the right button on your mouse, and it'll oftentimes bring up a menu. And then you can also use keyboard shortcuts. So a lot of times that'll be, if you're using the control key on your keyboard, it'll be like Control X, Control C, that type of thing. And we have a chart at the end that shows some shortcut keys. And we also have some screenshots here that show some of those as well for some of the more commonly used ones. So like we talked about earlier, each of these tabs are organized into groups. So we first have the home tab. We'll see right here, this is the home tab. And home is where probably a lot of us spend our time, just like in life, we spend a lot of time at home. That's kind of our comfortable place. That's where a lot of the main tools that a lot of us use live. So they're on the home tab. You will also notice inside of the home tab that there's different groups. So this first group is called the Clipboard Group. And this is where you can copy and paste, and also you can use the format paint. Whoops, sorry, I pressed a button and got muted. Hopefully you guys, yeah.
Sorry.
Was I muted for quite a while?
Not for long. I muted you by.
Okay. I think I pressed the space bar or something and it muted me. Or I did, I did a control. I did a control in one of the keys.
That was me.
What?
That was me. I misclicked.
Oh, okay. So if there's anything you guys missed that you want me to repeat, let me know. But we have clipboard, and then you have the font group where you can change the size of your font like we talked about earlier, and also the type of font, and then the color and various other things, like you can make it bold or italic or underline your font. And you also have the paragraph, and then there's the styles group as well. So we'll talk a little bit more about the clipboard area. So clipboard, the shortcut keys for this are paste is Control plus V, and you basically hold down the control key and then you press V at the same time. And that will paste whatever you have copied or saved to your clipboard. So you have to have something saved to your clipboard first. And the clipboard is kind of like computer memory that saves something you may have copied or cut, and it'll keep it in your computer's clipboard until you decide to paste it or do something with it. So you also have Control X or cut over here, and you'll see the cut button, and you can also just hold down the control key and use the X at the same time. There's also Control C, which you would hold down the Control C, hold down the control key and then press C at the same time, and that will copy it. So the main difference between copy and cut is that copy will actually make a copy of whatever you're selecting and leave it inside of your document, and cut will usually remove it from your document. So if you're cutting something, so usually it's something that you want to take off your document and put in another area of your document, that's usually when you use cut. A lot of times when we're training, we just have you copy and then delete out what you don't want to use, but that's the main difference between those two. This is just another example of that. I don't know why we have that in there twice, but that's another example of that. And then you'll, because we're going to talk more about this. Okay, so this is because we're going to talk more about paste. So you have several options when you're pasting. You'll notice there's a little drop down underneath paste, and you have several of these icons that will pop up. So this is nice because sometimes you don't want to paste you just want to paste the text that you copied. So that's when this comes in handy. So if you copied something and you want to keep all the formatting, you would click on this first button, which would be keep source formatting. And then you have this last button, which is keep text only. So if you just want to copy over something that you just want the text from and don't want the formatting from, that's when you would use that. A lot of times this comes in handy if you're copying something from another document and you don't want to bring the formatting over, especially if you're copying from a web page. A lot of times it will have some weird formatting that it'll bring over with it. So that's when the keep text only under paste comes in handy. And this is our font group broken up a little bit. You'll see here that we have different types of font, different font sizes. You have bold, italic, and underline in this section here. You can also increase and decrease your font size really easily right here. The one that looks a little bit larger is increase, and the one that's a little bit smaller is decrease. You can also highlight items and also add a background color to items as well. That's what this AB with a little paintbrush is. And then you also have your font color over here. And again, a lot of these have drop downs. So like the font color, if you tap on the drop down or click on the drop down, it'll give you more options for other colors. So keep that in mind as well. And then we also have the paragraph group. So you have several options in here. In our basic word class, we talked a lot about bullets and numbers. So those are in this group here. So this is where you do a lot of your formatting for your paragraphs. And you will also see that you can change your alignment, like making things aligned left, center, align right, and justify as well. You can also increase the indent and decrease the indent for fairly easily right here as well. And there's also an alphabetize. If you have a list that you'd like to alphabetize, there's this option in here. And you also have where you can adjust your line spacing over here in the paragraph area as well. So the insert tab is what you use when you want to insert pictures, tables, shapes, that type of thing. And also page breaks, which we'll be using page breaks some today. You can also insert page numbers and headers and footers as well, and text boxes and various other things. So this is where the page break is. And this is if you want to insert a manual page break. So basically, if you want the page separated into another page, and we'll practice with this some today. You can also insert a picture here, and your headers and footers are in this area. And we'll talk more about what headers and footers are and how you can change page numbers. There's also the layout tab, and this is where you go in and you can change your margins. You can change your page orientation if you'd rather print something in landscape, and adjust the paper size as well if you want to print on a bigger or smaller piece of paper. So there's lots of options in here as well. This is where you adjust the margins. This is where the orientation is. And here's your page breaks as well. So there's also spelling and grammar check, which we practice some in basic Word, and you can run this yourself, or you'll notice when you're typing a document that there may be little squigglies underneath your words. A lot of times those are that Word has caught that there may be a spelling or a possible grammar mistake. It's not always, like sometimes if you have, a lot of times it may think that a name or a name of a city or something like that may be spelled wrong and it's actually okay. So it's not always 100%, so you want to double check that. But you can just do that manually. If you click on the word, it'll give you suggestions, but you can also just run it for the whole document as well if you have a longer document. You also have the review tab where you can go in and If you're editing a document with someone, you can go in and put in review marks to help them with suggestions for how they can improve their document if you're proofreading it for them. This also is something you might use if you're working on a document with another colleague or another student. And then we talked about this some last time too. The File tab is right here at the top when you're in Word, and you will click on File. And this is usually where you go to save a file. And then in here, the File tab is actually called the Backstage View, and you have several different options in here. And you'll notice that you have Save As, which Save As is if you're saving a document for the first time, or you want to save a copy of it for some reason. Like, let's say you created a new resume and you have a resume for teaching jobs you're applying for, and maybe a resume for sales jobs you're applying for. You can keep those separate and have separate copies of those. So that's kind of how the Save As works. You also have Save if you're just wanting to save a document that you made changes to, like maybe you changed some of the formatting and you want to keep the original copy and keep your changes. You would use Save as well. And there's also Print in here too if you want to print your document. So this is what it might look like when you're doing Save As, and this may look a little bit different on your computer than it would here. But when you're doing Save As, the first thing you'll want to pick is where you're going to save the document. So in this case, we're saving it inside of Documents. So you'll see here that it says Documents, and you'll also notice up here at the top that you can see the location as well. You'll see this PC and then Documents. And then you will pick a name for it and then click Save. So that's kind of how that works. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about styles. So I explained it a little bit, but this is an explanation from GCF Learn Free that explains it a little bit better than me. But basically you use your styles so that you can have predefined combinations of fonts and colors that according to Word look well together. You may not like them, but it kind of makes it look a little bit more professional. I mean, give it more professional look and feel. You can also set your own styles. If you like, if you have certain colors that maybe your company uses, certain colors that you need to use to match your logo, that type of thing. It's also a nice way to use, you can use styles to quickly change several things in a document at once. So if you have some headers and you want them all to look the same, or you have some titles and you want them all to look the same, that's an easy way to do that. So we'll talk more about that when we do our lesson here in a second. And there's also a good lesson on GCF Learn Free. There's a link to it right here. And that talks a little bit more about specifically about using and modifying styles. So if you want to learn more about that, there's that link. And here's a quick resource that shows some keyboard shortcuts. If you'd like, you can print this out and leave it by your computer. But this is just some of them. If you're a keyboard shortcut person, this is how you can quickly get to some of those, like Control S is save. Then some of those we've already talked about. Control A is one I actually use a lot. If you do Control A, it'll select everything inside of your document. So that comes in handy sometimes. A lot of times when you're copying and pasting, that may be something you want to use. Or if you want to change the font of a document really quickly, that's an easy thing to use as well. And then here's also some other ones, and you'll notice that some of these don't have control with them. So the home button is just the home button on your keyboard. That's depending on how your keyboard's set up. It's right next to your number pad to the left. And again, if you have a laptop, it may be in a different spot, but home will take you to the beginning of a line. End will take you to the end of the line. So sometimes those come in handy, and that's a quick way, instead of using your arrow keys or arrowing up or down to go to the beginning or end of a line or a document. That's pretty helpful. Oh, and then, sorry, I said, whoops, let me go back. End will move to the end of the line, and you have Control plus End, and that'll move you to the end of the document. I think I said that wrong, sorry. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is actually go into a document and practice editing it. And we're gonna go over several different things today. One of the main things we're gonna do is do some formatting on a document, add some page breaks, add a table of content, the table of contents, and several other things. So just a second here, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the class document. So that link I sent you earlier will have a folder in it. It'll say class documents. Below that, you'll find also the PowerPoint that we use today. And then there's also, if you want the instructions, there's the instructions in here as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and go into class documents, and we're gonna download these so that we can work on them. So if you open this yourself later, one of the things you'll want to make sure you do is that you right click this and then click on download. So you can download it to your computer. Otherwise, it'll try to open it inside Google Drive, depending on your settings. Then we will also open this one, long documents, sorry. So then we're gonna go ahead, so you'll see that those are downloaded down here. And we have the demo long documents and then the long documents recipes. So we're gonna go ahead and open the long documents first, just so you can see what we're gonna be starting with. So we're going to be editing a document that has some hamburger recipes in it. So it's a good thing that lunch is after this, because we're probably going to be pretty hungry after we look at these hamburger recipes. So this is what we're going to be starting with. I'm going to scroll down. You can see what some of this looks like. Let me zoom in a little bit. So this is what we're starting out with. We're not gonna go through the whole thing, but you get the idea. We're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna minimize this by clicking on the minimize button to go back to my window back here where the documents were. And we're gonna open the demo so you can get an idea of what we're hoping to accomplish when we're done. And again, one thing I forgot to mention, when you open this, if you're opening it in Word, you may get a notification up here that says enable editing. This is just extra protection that Microsoft has built in. Go ahead, you can click on enable editing, but you wouldn't always want to do this. You want to be careful and make sure that you trust the document that you're opening and that it's safe. So in this case, we do. So I'm going to go ahead and click on enable editing. And it looks like Ben just posted that in the window for you guys. If you need that link, that'll have the documents that we're going to be working on. I would recommend that you kind of follow along with us today as we're working on this, unless you have a couple of computers set up or have a double monitor set up, just because it's a little hard to follow along. But this is what we're hoping to accomplish at the end. And it won't look exactly like this, but similar. You'll see that we have different pages set up. There's been some formatting on the title. We have a header up here, and we'll talk about headers and footers. We have a table of contents. And we also have page numbers and different colors of things as well. So this is what we're hoping to accomplish by the end. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. And like I said, it's not maybe going to look exactly like this, but the idea is that we're going to add some formatting and make it a little bit easier to read. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this again. I'm going to use the minimize button, and we'll go back to our draft that we're going to work on. So we pull up my notes here. The first thing we're going to do is start kind of easy and start with modifying the font and the size on this. So since we want to change this, we're going to highlight it first. So I'm going to use my mouse and we're going to go over here. We're going to change the font first. So the font we want is Arial Black, and you'll notice as we're scrolling over these, you can kind of see that it looks a little different than Arial. It's called Arial Black. So we're going to go ahead and select that. So we'll click on that so that it changes to Arial Black. Then next, we're going to change the size of the font. So we're going to go over here under the font size, and we're going to change it to 36. And then we also want to make this centered. So we already have it selected, and you'll remember over here in the paragraph group, we have left, and we have align center, align right. Align right looks kind of funny. We actually want align center, so there we go. So now this is aligned in the center. So we got that applied. It's already looking a little bit better. We're also going to insert a page break. So the page breaks are under insert, and what we're going to do is put a page break after the picture of the hamburger so that bibliographic note is on the next page. So you can do this a couple of different ways. What I like to think about is that I like to put the cursor where I would like the break to take place. So I'm going to put my cursor right here, and I'm going to click on page break, and then it'll insert my page break. So now we have a break between this first page, which is going to be our title page, and our second page. And while we're on here, we are also going to center our hamburger. So we're going to go back to home and tap on center. So let me undo that so you can see that again. So first I made sure that I clicked on the hamburger. So we have the picture of the hamburger selected. I clicked on it, and then I went up here to the paragraph group and I centered it. If you wanted to, you could also put an enter. Let me undo that. You could also put in another enter between those. So I put my cursor after recipes. I clicked right here after recipes and hit enter and put in another space in here, kind of to space it out a little bit, just to make that look a little bit better too. And again, when you work on this yourself, you could do whatever you wanted. If you wanted to add a different picture or change hamburger recipes to a different color, you could do that too. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is add another page break. So we're going to go down, and we want to make each recipe be on its own page. So, and as an aside, another thing you could do is you could hit the enter key several times and create your own page break. But sometimes that can create issues in the document and also is a lot of extra work. So we like to just insert a page break instead. That makes it a little bit easier and a little bit cleaner, and also saves you some work. So we're going to put our cursor right before Eggers can't be cheeseburgers, and we're going to go ahead and go to insert and insert another page break. So now you'll see that we have bibliographic note is on its own page. And then we have Eggers can't be cheesers. I keep wanting to say something else other than cheesers. Eggers can't be cheesers on its own page as well. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to make some changes to the headings in our document. So we're going to say that these Eggers can't be cheesers. These are headers because they're the title of each recipe. So we want to make those stand out and also look similar to each other. So we're going to start with the Eggers can't be cheesers, and I'm going to select it. We're going to go back to our home tab over here. And we are going to make the font Arial rounded, empty bold. right here, and you'll notice that it changes it for us. And we want to make the size be 16, like this. And then we're also going to change the color. So remember the font colors over here, we're going to click on this drop down and we want dark blue. So there's some blues up here, but also the standard colors, you can see them down here. This is dark red. This is red. And you'll notice as you scroll your mouse over them, they'll show you the colors. And we want dark blue. So this blue right here is dark blue. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then you'll notice now our title is in dark blue. So there's also a little trick that Word has that makes it really easy to copy formats from one object to another, and it's called the format painter. It's right here. If you kind of tab your mouse or roll your mouse over this, not tab your mouse, sorry, roll your mouse over this, it'll give you an explanation of how you use it with some instructions. So basically what we're going to do is we like the formatting here on Eggers Can't Be Choosers, and we want to apply it to Totally Radish Burgers down here. So we're going to use our mouse and select this. Then we're going to click on the format painter right here. Then we're going to select on Totally Radish. We're going to take our cursor over here and click and select Totally Radish Burgers. And you'll notice our cursor looks a little bit different. We have a little paintbrush there. If we select this, then lift up off of the mouse, it'll make this have the same formatting as we had up here. So that's kind of a nice little trick. That way we didn't have to go in here and select the font and the size and the color, and then you don't have to make sure you get the right color and all of that. And it's a really easy way to apply the formatting from this title down to this one as well. So that makes things a lot easier. So we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to select this and use the format painter, and we are going to go down to It's Fun to Eat at the Right. These are tongue twisters for sure. We're going to go ahead and select this and apply that same formatting. So again, I selected it. Let me undo that real quick. I selected it up here. I clicked on Format Painter. I went down here and then highlighted what else I wanted to change as well. And then it applied the same format. So that works pretty slick. Do you guys have any questions about the format printer or changing the fonts? And again, if you have questions, you're welcome to use the chat. Okay, so this is great, but what if we decide that maybe we don't want these to be blue anymore and we want them to be a different color, or we want to use a different font? So, I mean, we could easily go through and use the format painter again, but we'd have to change each of them separate. That's when styles kind of come into play. You can apply a style easily and it'll apply it to certain elements of your document. So that's why styles are nice. So let's see here. What we're going to do is we're going to go back here and highlight Eggers Can't Be Choosers Burger. And we're going to go over to the Styles tab over here. And we're going to select heading 1. So you'll see there are several different styles in here. There's heading 1, heading 2, subtitles, titles, but we're going to select heading 1. So we're going to apply the heading 1 style to Eggers Can't Be Choosers. And again, I'll undo that so you can see that again. We have this selected, and then we're going to go up and just tap on heading 1 or click on heading 1, and it'll apply that style to the Eggers Can't Be Choosers. So that's kind of nice because it just has that style built in and then you can automatically select it. You'll also notice if you click the arrow here, there's other styles listed as well. So that's a quick, easy way to apply styles. And you'll also notice over here that you can see the font. So you'll see that it changed it to Calibra Light and it is now size 16. So it took that style and applied it to that text. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is apply this. We're gonna apply heading 1 to all of our titles of our recipes. So we're gonna go to Totally Radish Burger, select this and do heading 1. It's fun to eat at the rye. We're gonna do the same thing. We select it and tap on heading 1. Bruschetta burger, heading 1. Onion tinted. Not even gonna try to say all that. Heading 1. Cheeses is born, heading 1. And I'm gonna get you succotash burger, heading 1. And then 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish. Again, we're gonna select it and go to heading 1. Okay, so we got all of our headers. And they're all styled as heading 1. Just double checking here. Looks like we got them all. So the next thing we're going to do is format and apply a style, excuse me, to this text underneath the header. So this says makes 4 burgers. What we're going to do is select this emphasis style right here. So we're going to click on that and you'll notice that it changes. So again, we have makes 4 burgers. We're going to tap on or click on emphasis. Sorry, I keep saying tap. I taught a Libby mobile class yesterday and I keep wanting to say tap like we're being on a cell phone instead of click. So we'll click on emphasis there and we'll select makes 4 burgers and click on emphasis over here. Again, we're doing that to all of these. It's always good to have extra gravy. So we will size that. Emphasize this as well. Add emphasis to that one. And there we go. We got those all applied. So now all of our headers and all of the comments underneath those all look the same on all of our recipes. Now what we're going to do is play with the design tab a little bit. So underneath design, you'll notice that there's some themes and it'll apply a design theme to your document as well. So just going to kind of scroll over so you can get an idea. So some of them may have different colors, different fonts, and as you kind of scroll over them, you'll see the different formatting. And again, this is under the design tab. So let's see, is there any of these or are there any of these that you guys particularly like? And also if you click on this little drop down, it'll show a few more. Some of these aren't too different than what we had. I'm gonna select this eggers can't be cheesers with the green. And then you'll see it applied it to the whole document. Now we have our headers and then our emphasis underneath those, but they're all green with the, and they have a different font as well. Oh, no, it's kept the font, sorry. Oh, that's because we're going to get to the fonts in a second. Sorry, I forgot about that. The fonts are over here, so we can change the fonts too. So we can change the colors. I'm not particularly a fan of this green. So you'll notice over here that you have some different options. You can change the colors. There's Office 2007 to 2010, which makes it kind of orange. You have grayscale. And again, this is under the colors tab. So you have blue, blue warm, blue green, green. I kind of like blue green. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Then you'll notice there's several others down here. You can also create your own colors if you'd like as well. And then we can also change the fonts. So we have the colors here and then the fonts here as well. So if we click on the fonts, you'll see that there's font sets in here. So you can choose like an Office, Microsoft Office fonts set. There's Arial, Corbel, Candra, Century Gothic, Georgia, Arial Times New Roman, Century Schoolbook. I'm gonna pick Calibra or Arial. I kind of like Arial. I'm gonna go ahead and click on that. If there's another one you guys want me to choose, let me know in the chat. A nice thing is it also has a little explanation underneath here as well. It explains the theme colors. So you can, talks about how you can change the colors used by picking a different color palette. And then it also explains the theme fonts as well. So that's kind of nice. And then there's also a tell me more if you want to learn even more. So this is another place where you can go in if you have certain colors you need to use for a work document or something, or if you want to match some colors you're using for invitations or that type of thing, you can go in here and match the colors and the fonts as well. So you can pick your own themes and colors. So what we're going to do now is go back to the Home tab, and we're actually going to modify a style and create our own custom style that we want to use. So the normal style is the default. And whoops, I clicked on that and undid it. I'm going to go ahead and undo. So this is the style we're using right now. The normal style, if I'm going to kind of scroll over that, but not click on it. And you'll notice as you kind of just hover your mouse over any of these, it'll give you an idea of what that style would look like. But this is the style we've been using. And normal is what your document would, I guess, normally use. That's the default style. When you open up a document, it'll go to normal. But this is something you can actually modify this. So we're going to go over this really quick. So we're going to right click. So this is if you would like to change the normal style in Word. So we're going to right click on this. And we're going to go to modify. And we're going to change a few things in here. And the first thing we're going to change is we're going to make the font be Calibra Light. So we're going to click this drop down right here. And these are in alphabetical order. If you actually hit the C on your keyboard, it should take you to the C's. So we'll go to Calibra Light. And we're going to change the size to 12. And then you have some options. If you want, you can add this to the styles gallery and you can apply it only to this document, or you can have it be a template that it applies to new documents. I'm just going to keep it for only in this document, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Then we're going to go back here and go back to modifying the normal. We're going to add a couple of other options. Actually, we're not, sorry, I got in the wrong spot really quick. So we're going to go, instead, we're going to modify heading 1. So we're going to go to heading 1, and we'll notice when we change this that it'll change our document as well, because we applied the heading 1 style to our document. So we're going to right click on this and we're going to go to modify. And we are going to change our font to Arial Rounded right there. And we're going to change the size to 16. And this is just for our headers. So it'll just affect the eggers can't be cheesers and the other headers that were for the title of the hamburger recipes. So we change the font and we change the size, and now we're going to change the color too. So right here is where you can change the font color. We're going to click on this and we want orange. So orange is down here with the standard colors. And again, you can decide if you only want to apply it to this document or do new documents. We're just going to apply it to this document. We're going to go ahead and click OK. And you'll notice after we do this, it'll change our headings to orange and it'll be our new font as well.
Janelle,
Yeah.
you've got a question in the chat.
So someone asked, so it only changes the text that is in the color in the modify style block. Correct. So in this case, we're just changing the heading 1, and it is only changing the text that we formatted with heading 1. Did that answer your question? Yeah, it shouldn't change anything else. Like you'll notice that this down here, which is our emphasis, I'm gonna click on. So you'll also notice when I click on makes for burgers, which was what we applied the emphasis style to, that's still blue and still has the emphasis style that we applied. The totally radish burger, which has the new styling with the different font and the orange color, will be that. But all we changed was the heading. So you'll notice when we come down here, we changed the heading 1. So now it changed the rest of the heading 1s down here too. And now they're all orange as well. Okay, so now the orange looks kind of weird with the blue. So what we're going to do is also change the emphasis style over here as well. So I'm going to right click on this and we're going to go to modify again. And we are going to change that to Andel Mono. Which it doesn't look like we had, which I swore I saw in here earlier, but instead we're just gonna pick Arial. And I also want to change the color, so I'm going to go back and modify. And we want, oops, I should explain this. So what I'm doing is we're going to change the color because the blue and the orange looks kind of funky together. So we could choose yellow, but that's going to be a little bright and maybe not what we want. So I'm going to click on more colors and try to pick something that kind of complements the orange that we already have. I'm going to pick this. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to like that, but okay. So now we have eggers can't be choosers, and then the emphasis got changed as well. So you'll notice the emphasis style that we applied to the makes for burgers on our recipes got changed as well. And you'll also notice as I'm working around in the document, eggers can't be cheesers. When we have our mouse on that, it's styled as heading 1. So you'll see heading 1 up here. Makes for burgers has the emphasis styling. So you'll see that when you have that text selected or clicked in there. And then you'll also notice down here when we are, when we click on the regular text for the recipe, that it's showing normal, because that was formatted with normal styling. So it doesn't have any special styling. It just has the normal. Well, I shouldn't say it doesn't have any special styling. It has the normal styling, which is its own special styling. So. Okay, so now we got that done or started. So the next thing we're going to do is add a table of contents. So a table of contents comes in really handy for something like this when you have a longer document, when you want to easily find something inside the document so you don't have to go through the whole thing. So we're going to add a table of contents so that we can see what pages all the recipes are on. So the first thing we're going to do is we want to add another page break, because we're going to add the table of contents between the bibliographic note page and the eggers can't be choosers first recipe. So I'm going to click right here for eggers, because I'm going to click after we're going to add it, and I'm going to go ahead and click on page break. And then it'll put the page break in between those two pages. So we have the bibliographic notes, then we have a blank page here, and then we have the eggers can't be cheesers. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our table of contents on this page. So we're going to click in the upper left-hand corner, because that's where we want to insert it. And we're going to go to references. So references is where the table of contents is and various other things. If you were adding citations to a paper and that type of thing, it would also be under here. You could also add footnotes as well. But we're going to add a table of contents. So the table of contents is over here. And again, you'll notice if you scroll your mouse over it, it brings up a pop-up to explain a little bit about what a table of contents is. And there's also a tell me more with the little question icon or help, so you can learn more about it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on table of contents, and you have a couple of options here. I'm going to click on automatic table 2, and it'll automatically add the table of contents for us. And you'll see there are different formats, but that's the one I'm going to choose. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then it automatically inserted our table of contents, which is pretty slick. We didn't have to type this ourselves or figure out how to put the leader lines in and go back and look and see which page each recipe is on. So that makes it really nice. And we did some work before that kind of helped with this when we set up our headers. That made it so it was easy for the table of contents to see what to put on this page. Okay, so we got our table of contents added. Do you guys have any other questions about some of what we've gone over? Yeah, it is easy. It seems like it should be pretty hard. As long as you do some work beforehand, it can be pretty easy. I've tried to go in and set this up and type in my own leaders and have to go back and look at the page numbers and all of that, and it was a big headache. Of course, it hasn't always been this easy with Word. Like if you used to use Word a long time ago, it wasn't this easy, but it's gotten easier as the years have gone on. Okay, so another thing is, what if we make a change to our table of contents, like move some stuff to another page or that type of thing. Is it gonna mess up our table of contents? Well, yes and no. There is an update table here function. If you click on your table of contents, click on update table, you can update the entire table, or you can just update the page number if something changes. So that's another plus. So I guess a tip if you're going to be using the table of contents is to make sure you set it up kind of like we did before. So your setup will make a difference, but also if something changes, you can always update it in here as well. So we're going to insert some more page breaks because we want our recipes all on their own page to make this a little easier to find the recipes. So what we're going to do is put our cursor here right in front of Totally Radish Burgers because we want a page break in between Totally Radish Burgers and Eggers Can't Be Cheesers. So we're going to insert a page break. We want to insert one here. It's fun to eat at the Rye. We also want one between bruschetta or bruschetta. I know people say that differently. I've always said bruschetta, but it's hard habit to break. So go ahead and put the cursor here and then insert page break. We want a page break between bruschetta and onion tended. So we will put our cursor right there and you'll notice it's blinking. We're going to click on page break. Cheeses is Born Burger. Oh, that one sounds so good. I may have to try that one. We'll go ahead and put our cursor there and insert another page break. And then we'll insert one here. Okay, did we miss any? Oh, there's another one here. So put our cursor here and insert a page break. Okay. Just double checking here. Let's double check and make sure we got all our page breaks in here. But then you'll also notice when we're looking at this, Onion Tended Consequences Burger is now on page 8. And we can see that down at the bottom of the page. It says page 8 of 13 down here. Then we go back to our table of contents. It's probably not going to be on page 8. Nope, it's showing page 6. So what we can do is click on our table of contents, update the table. We can update the entire table or just the page numbers. The only thing we really changed were the page numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and keep update page numbers only and click on OK. And then you'll notice our page numbers got updated. So just keep that in mind that if things change or if your pages get moved around or you add in more page breaks, that you need to update your table and your table of contents so that it will be reflected with the changes you made in your document. Okay, so another thing we're going to do is we want this extras down here to be a heading as well. So we're going to go back. We're going to select extras. And we're going to add, we have our style here, so that makes it nice. We don't have to remember what color and what font we used before. So we have our heading style here. So we're going to select heading 1 for extras. And then we also want this on its own page. So we are going to insert a page break there. And now extras is on its own page. And now extras is on page 12. And if we go to our table of contents, Another trick is you can also use the page up and page down. I think we talked about that earlier. Keys on your keyboard as well to page up in your document. It'll go up page by page. Okay, so we have our table of contents here, and you'll notice our extras aren't on here. So we'll go to update table, and we want to update the entire table. And we'll go ahead and click OK here, and then it'll update our table of contents. So now we have extras, and it's showing that it's on page 12. So that worked pretty slick. So another thing to keep in mind is the main reason this update tables is here, why they have update page numbers only and update the entire table is if you have a pretty big document you're working on, like a book or something you're publishing, that type of thing, if it's fairly large, if you update the entire table, it'll take a little while if you update that. So that's why they have the update page numbers only, just to kind of make it so if you just do a quick update where you change page numbers, that you can update that fairly quickly. And we also use both of those to show you kind of the difference between those two and to practice. So
there's another question in the
oh,
chat.
Yeah. Extra line. So are you asking if we can put a line after this, just a blank line? Yes. Yeah, and you could also type something here if you wanted to, like World of Burgers, that type of thing, and you could also format it too. But yes, you can add that and it won't mess it up. Good question. I really put by Janelle because I didn't write this, but anyway, that gives you some ideas of things you could type. Okay, so any other questions about table of contents? That was pretty easy. And like I said, if you set it up well, usually it goes pretty slick. But of course, with anything with technology, sometimes you can have issues too. But most of the time it works pretty slick. It's a pretty cool tool. They made it a lot easier than it used to be. And again, that was under references and then table of contents. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about are headers and footers and page numbers really quick. So I'm going to stop this share really quick, and we're going to try something. We're going to try to share the whiteboard really quick here. So when you have, and I am horrible at drawing, so I apologize in advance. When you have a page, see my lovely page here? Oh, it's horrible. Let me undo this, but try not to think about it too much. So pretend that this is a beautiful page inside of Word and that it's even and not crooked. When you have headers and footers, your headers will be up here, and then your footers are down here. And then in the middle, you always have your body. So a lot of times you can use headers and footers for different things. If you're writing a paper, you may put page numbers or other things down in the footer. You may need to put page numbers up in the header as well. You may put information in the header such as titles and that type of thing. So I don't know, this probably wasn't the best drawing, but usually when you add headers and footers, it automatically divides your text into 3 parts. So you'll have your headers at the top, then your body in the middle, and your footers at the bottom. And we're going to add some really quick to our document. We're going to add page numbers and then add some headers as well. So you'll kind of see this live in our document as well. So we're going to go back over here. Okay. So now we're back in our recipe with our document, and we're going to go ahead and add page numbers. So we're going to add page numbers to the footer. I'm going to go ahead and go up to the top of the document. And so page numbers are under the insert tab. So we're going to go to insert first. And we are going to go to page number. And again, page number is under headers and footers. So the page numbers are always added to the header or the footer, and you'll get to decide. So we want our page number at the bottom of the page. And do you guys have any preferences to either of these? Any of these look good to you? It'll give you options. You have plain number towards the left, plain number towards the middle. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click or select this accent bar 3. And then you'll notice now we have page numbers, and we also have a footer down here. And then we also have a header. Even though we just added a footer, it's still going to show our header up here. So it automatically divides that for us. So we have our header section up here, and then our footer section down here. And you'll notice we have page numbers on every page. So that makes our table of contents even handier because now you can see which page number you're on. But what if we don't want a page number on this first page? You have an option right here where you can turn that off and it won't show up on the first page. There's a lot of other things you can do with headers and footers as well. And if any of you have ever written a college paper, you may have gone down some crazy rabbit holes with those. I know I have, and wanted to pull my hair out several times getting my headers and footers correct. But that's just some basic ways you can format those and add page numbers. So another thing you can do is also add a header. So let's say that we want this to say, I don't remember what I had on there. Oh yeah. Let's say we want to have a header as well. So let's say we want a header up here at the top of our document too, and we want it to select hamburger recipes. So we can format this too. We can have it show up just like this, but maybe we want it to be centered. So if we select this with our mouse, and then we will click on center right here, we'll make that centered. We can also style it over here if we like. I kind of like this subtle emphasis right here. We could also change the color if we wanted to as well. And then another thing you'll notice, like we talked about with the header and the body and the footer, that if you want to do anything with the body, again, if you need to edit something, like if you notice a typo or if you need to change something, if you click over here in the body, it'll make the headers disappear. And then you can make the headers come back, or the headers or footers come back if you go back to the insert.
It's a double click, right?
Oh, yes, it's a double click. Thank you. Sorry. Yes. If you do, let me go ahead and bring back our. So yeah, it's a double click, which is good because it makes it so you can't easily go in here and mess it up. So yeah, if you want to go back to your header or your footer, you can double click up in this area, or if you need to do something with the body, you can double click down in the body and it'll bring it back so you can edit it as well. And you'll notice it wants to fix cheesers, it doesn't think cheesers is a word. If we right click on it, it's showing various options like chasers, cheerers. I'm just going to click on ignore all because I want to keep it like that. Okay, so now that mark went away, we'll kind of go over this and we'll do a print preview to see what it looks like when we print it. So I'm going to go, sorry, I didn't mention what I was doing. We're going to go to File and Print. And this kind of shows us what it's going to look like. And again, like we mentioned earlier, under printing, you can print all the pages. You can just print one page if you want to see what it's going to look like. You have various options with that. This would also be a good time to do a refresher on save and save as. In this case, I made changes to the document and I want to keep my documents separate. So what I'm going to do is do a save as, because I want to save a different copy. So I'm going to go to save as, and this is actually saved in my downloads. So we'll go to downloads and it's going to keep the original name, which was long documents recipes. And I'm going to put edited behind it so that I can easily tell which one's which. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on save. And so now I did a save as, and I have the original document that we started with, and we have the new edited document, and I have both those saved on my computer. We'll go back in here, they're under my downloads, and you'll be able to see that we have the long documents, which is what we started with. And then we have the recipes edited, which is our final copy that we finished with. Whoops, sorry. I didn't realize you guys couldn't see that. Let me start over. That was on my other screen. So we're under downloads and you'll see we have long documents, which is what we started with. And then we have the edited copy, which is what we ended with. So we have 2 copies of that, and we have the new one and then the old one. So we finished kind of early. I'm trying to think if there's something I think I went through everything. Do you guys have any questions? We'll go back to the slides real quick. We'll do our final slides. But if you have questions, feel free. Oh, we have one. Oh, yeah. Ben posted the evaluation as well. So you can see that there. If you'd like to learn more about Word or anything really, GCF Learn Free has lots of good tutorials. Here's a link to the Word 2016 ones, but there's several others on there. The State Library of Kansas also has Word lessons that you can go through Universal Class. If you want to learn more about that or want to see how that works, you can talk to one of us and we'll be glad to help you. Also, Microsoft has some Word for Windows training that has specific topics you can go through. YouTube is also a good resource. And you can also Google it. If you want to know how to add a table of contents, you can just go to Google and search. I'll go ahead and open a window here. How do I add bullets in Word? And it's helpful if you also know the version of Word you have. And then it'll bring you with some direction. And first it pops up Word 2016 lists from GCF Learn Free. So that would be a good one to look at. And then there's also some videos here from YouTube. So a lot of times that's a good trick. If you're not sure how to do something, you can find tutorials and instructions online with Google or whatever search engine you prefer. If you also want more one-on-one help, you can use our Book a Librarian service. You can call and make an appointment by calling us at the Advanced Learning Library at 261-8500, and we can sit down with you and do some one-on-one help. Usually we try to keep these sessions to an hour, and right now they're at the Advanced Learning Library. Ben and I are both technology trainers, and there are several others of us that you can make appointments with as well. And we can help you with Word or Excel, or if you have questions about if you want to learn how to use your phone better or how to check out ebooks, anything technology related, we'll be glad to help you with. So you just have to call and set up an appointment.